Well, I think growing up in Zanzibar, which is in a way a concentrated cosmopolitan society.
This series of presentation is part of the Awakening Project.
And at that time, then I joined here. It was in government Indian Junior.
Welcome to the Learning from Our History series of the Awakening Project of Khoja Shia Ishnashri Muslim Community. In this series of presentations are conversations from various personalities of our communities whose lives have touched many of us and generations before us, and in some cases inspired some of us. We believe that such conversations are of immense benefits to all in the community to understand our heritage as well as our community history. Awakening Project is a grassroots-led project that looks at challenges facing the community and how the foundational institution of family, madrasa, and member can be suitably equipped to overcome these challenges. You will find more information on the challenges and solutions on the Awakening Project of Khoja Shia Ishnashri Muslim Community website and various YouTube presentations. Now I have with us Alhaj Anverbhai Rajpar. Salamun alaikum, Anverbhai.
Alaikum salam, Simta.
Anverbhai Rajpar was born and raised in Lindi. After successfully completing his primary and secondary education, Anverbhai went to UK in 1957 for further studies and successfully completed studies in chartered accountancy in June 1962. He was awarded a Plender Prize, being one of the top 5 high achievers. On his return to Lindi in 1962, he set up a chartered accountancy firm of Rajpar and Company. Since then, he has set up companies in Dar es Salaam, Nairobi, and Karachi. He is entrepreneur by instinct, setting up shipping agencies and port handling company that received an award for its excellent services. On his return to Tanzania, he set up shipping company in Dar es Salaam and currently is active in the company at age 82. He had the privilege of being elected as a chairman of Dar es Salaam Merchant Chambers. He was one of the founder and director of Tanzania Private Sector Foundation, as well as member of Tanzania National Business Council and elected as president of Rotary Club Dar es Salaam. He also got involved in community work at Lindi Jamaat in 1962, and since then had continuously worked for the community, completing nearly 60 years of continuous service to the community, serving in various capacities, including chairman of Pakistan Federation of Khoja Shia Ishnashri Jamaats. During his community services, he saw to the construction of residential flats in Dar es Salaam, saw to the construction of Mehfil Murtaza Center and Al Murtaza School in Karachi that caters for 2,300 students to matric level. He also saw to establishing Zainabia Trust in Karachi that caters for housing needs of the community, and to date built 22 multi-story buildings in Karachi. In 1991, together with others, set up Jaffrey International Business Association to bring together business minds of the community for economic upliftment of the community. On 14th of June 2020, he announced that he no longer wished to be actively involved in the community life and retired to spend more time with his family members and friends. Welcome, Anverbhai.
Thank you.
Well, this is, Anverbhai, an exemplary bio of your business acumen and progress, as well as extensive communal contribution. And of course, we will touch on all those aspects of it as we move into our conversation. But before I get into, or before we get into the conversation, can you explain what or who this Plender Prize was in chartered accountancy field? I know it was a long time ago, but this may be of interest to chartered accountants who are listening. I mean, I just wanted to know what Plender Prize was. I mean, why was it presented to you, and what is the history behind it?
Well, the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, which is my professional body to which I belong, had a prize instituted by, I presume, a Mr. Plender in his name. And it is awarded to every exam, inter and final, to the student who comes first in executorship. So out of the 2,000 students that appeared, I came first in that paper, and that is why I was awarded this prize.
Okay. So you are one of those high achievers from early stage in your career, mashallah. The other thing I noticed in your bio, interestingly, is that you instinctively are entrepreneur, got a business mind, and at the same time you are a philanthropist. This is what is coming out from your bio. And so you have somehow balanced both the entrepreneur mindset and the philanthropy mindset. This is very interesting. Is there a formula that you can share with us as how you sort of, if you were to sort of give advice to a businessman, then how he could develop that both entrepreneurship and the devotion to community or serving the needs of the community philanthropically? What's that balance? What's the equation? Is there anything that you can give at a very early stage of a conversation to whoever is listening?
I think both of them, entrepreneurship and philanthropy or the community work, has to come from your blood. You have to be ingrained in that, and you have to be interested in that. And then only you can serve both of them proficiently and nicely. So I think that by the grace of God, I had the blessings of Allah to be able to do both of these things.
The other thing that comes out from your bio is that both entrepreneurship and community work sort of went hand in hand. Yet on 14th of June last year, you resigned actively from the community life and yet continued with your entrepreneur sort of life. Why such a sudden? I mean, I would have expected with the level of experience that you have, you would have maintained a position in the community for advice, given the level of experience you have and the contribution you have made. So I'm just curious as to why sudden cutoff and then retiring from the community life, but still active in the business life.
You have to know when to retire, because before you are forced out. So I thought that I've reached the peak of my service.
You mean to say, Anverbhai, that the community life pushed you out? I doubt it very much.
Before the community checks me out, I better retire gracefully. And because of the age also factor, because I used to travel quite a lot on community business. Wherever there was a meeting, Nairobi, Mombasa, London, Birmingham, I used to go all the time, So now I found that because of the age, it is taking a toll on my health. So I decided that I better retire from the community service while the going is good.
Now, I can understand the rationale behind now that you have explained, but I'm sure the community will need your experiences and advice, and hopefully will approach you whenever the need arises. And given what you have done, I'm sure you will always be available to give them your experiences and advice. Now, just coming back to your life, a journey of life. I mean, you were born in Lindi. Talk to us about your childhood, your schooling, your parents, and generally the life in Lindi, the time you were sort of growing up. So you were schooled in Lindi, primary and secondary education?
Yes, in Lindi, I was born in Danda, actually, a mission hospital, a few miles from Lindi, when my parents were staying in Masasi at that time.
Masasi is a small village
Yeah,
about a couple of hours from Lindi?
yes.
Okay.
So it is a small village. And at that time, the roads were not good, but now the roads are good. So in a couple of hours, you can reach Masasi now. But afterwards, we had to shift to Lindi for education purposes. So I studied my primary school in Lindi up to, at that time, you know, it used to be up to standard 12.
That's right. I remember.
Up to standard 10, I studied in Lindi. And then 11 and 12, there was no facility in Lindi. So I went to Dar es Salaam. And I studied 11th and 12th in Dar es Salaam. And in 12th, then I gave the O-level exam before proceeding to UK.
So proceeding to UK, I mean, there must be some motivation for education to make yourself better from education point of view, to educate yourself. Where did those inspiration come from? I mean, your mother and father were committed to education, you think, or was it the atmosphere at the time that you needed to be educated? What was your inspiration? How did you sort of wanted to go beyond the O-level and further studies? And why specifically chartered accountancy?
Well, I think it was my personal interest that forced me to go for further education in UK. My parents were not so well educated. They were in business, and but they were very cooperative, enthusiastic, and never came on the way of their children. We were 13 together.
13 children in the family?
Yeah, 13 brothers and sisters.
Right, okay.
Most of them, one of them is a doctor, one of them is a dentist, and so they went to UK also for further studies. So once I started to go there, then it made a way for our other brothers and sisters to come to UK for further education. We did not have so much money to be able to educate myself in UK. So I was the beneficiary of a scholarship from Africa Federation at that time. A small amount, but it was a quite hefty amount at that time because the cost of living was not so much, you know. So Alhamdulillah, I chose accountancy because I was interested in arithmetic and mathematics, etc. And all of a sudden, I don't know why, because many of the people at that time used to go for legal profession or for engineering or medical, you know. But I don't know why I chose accountancy, but I thought because of my interest in figures, I chose chartered accountancy. And it turned out that it was a good choice.
So do you measure everything in your life in terms of figures?
Sorry?
Do you measure everything in your life in terms of figures? Profit and loss?
Profit and as far as possible, yes.
Yeah, that can account for your bio. Okay, interestingly, you mentioned about the scholarship from our community institution, Africa Federation. How important the role those scholarships played at that time, if you can just reflect on that with our viewers, the scholarship that were being given to students from East Africa, how important that particular project was, and what sort of role it played in giving the professional status to many of our young people. Can you just share
Yes, well,
your
it is very
thoughts?
important because it enables our community to produce people like me and qualify, be able to qualify and then come back and serve the community and contribute to the community also. So a small beginning by the Africa Federation to educate a person instilled the and produce people like me. I'm not trying to praise myself, but produce people like me. But unfortunately, many people do not pay back the scholarship, which is something that is really hurting me very much. I was the first person to pay back before time. There is a 5-year time to pay the scholarship, but I paid within 2 years of the thing. And not only that, but I also gave one scholarship of the same amount so that one more person can be educated. So I think that if that criteria was used by each and one of us, then we would have a better result, and the Africa Federation would have been able to educate many more people than they have done. Although they have done a wonderful work, still they are doing. But people who get help from Africa Federation are not reciprocating, which is really a sad thing.
Yeah. Now, this is a nice, what you just talked about. It's a nice perpetual way of moving the scheme forward without overburdening the community with a lot of financial
Yes.
burden. Now let's move to UK. In 1957, you went to United Kingdom. Now, talk to us about what was life in United Kingdom like? What was your first impression of the UK? Because it appears that you are one of the first ones to go as a student there. So what was your student life, your impression in the UK? Were there our community, other students there, or they came afterwards? And so what sort of ethos, environment you developed in the UK?
Well, in UK at that time, there were a few of us, not many. There are a few of us, and we were lucky that we centered around Marble Arch, where there was a hostel called East Africa House. So we used to be there as a, border. And it's very interesting that I used to pay £3.50 per week for my accommodation. That included accommodation, breakfast, dinner, and weekend lunches. So you can imagine that it was quite cheap and easy to get around because it was not so expensive from the cost point of view, And a few of us, we were there, so we used to mingle and study together and decided to form East African International Union.
Can you name some of the colleagues that you had at the time, just sort of as an interest? Who were members of our community at the time there, students?
Like we were, Bashir Versi, who's now in Canada, he was there. Taki Walji, who is again in Canada, he was there. Muhammad Pirbhai, who is in Dar es Salaam in UK, and Bashir Chattu, and Murtaza Lakha, and so there were quite a few.
All right, okay, interesting. So you formed an International Union, Khoja-Shia International Union, I take it.
East African International Union,
East African, and I mean, if I recall, you you then develop a constitution as well of that institution.
Yes, yes. We had a constitution and we had elections also every year, so that, the main purpose was to organize social events and religious events. We even organized a trip to Olympics, for example, then other visits of places of interest and majlises on Wiladat and Shahadat of our imams.
Mm.
It was
Did
the
you
main,
have any? Did you have any when you were drafting the constitution? Did you have any occasion of a debate in any issues? Do you remember?
sorry?
When you were drafting the constitution of this union, did
Yeah.
you have any occasions when you needed to debate amongst yourself about any controversial issues or clauses or anything like that?
No, I think because the constitution was very simple, to encourage people to be together and to further the religious occasions, etc. So it
So
was not
you
a very complicated constitution,
Right.
the North, you know.
So you never had an issue with
The annual fee was 2 shillings, subscription was 2 shillings, 2.5 shillings per year.
So you never had an issue of whether to insert the word Khoja or not or anything like that at that time?
No.
Okay, so so you then sort of qualified as a chartered accountant, and then I think you came back to Tanzania.
Yes,
In when was that?
1962,
1962. You came to what? Dar es Salaam or Lindi?
Lindi.
And so what happened so you started your business there and you started your community work. You started your first sort of community endeavors in 1962 in Lindi.
That's right, yes.
So what made you go into that community life?
Well, my father was already involved in community life. He had been the president of Lindi Jamaat also for many years, and he took interest in the welfare of the Jamaat there. So naturally, when I came back to Lindi, I was drafted into the community service automatically.
Hmm. And so the community life developed. Tell me what were the next stages in your community life, at least in Tanzania, before, as I understand, you then moved to Pakistan. So
Yes.
what were the achievements there, in both in Lindi and Dar es Salaam, that you felt you could share with us?
Well, in Lindi, I was on the committee of Lindi Jamaat, and it was a small community. And I did nothing spectacular except whatever was the normal course of events in the religious affairs of the Jamaat. Because I did not stay too long in Lindi. After 1 year, I shifted to Dar es Salaam and opened up my branch in Dar es Salaam. So I had Lindi and Dar es Salaam as the branches where I was practicing. In Dar es Salaam, I got quite fairly involved and I did quite a good job, I think. I was the secretary of Lindi Jamaat. And during my time, I developed 3 multi-story buildings of housing for the community opposite our present graveyard. Because
We call it Chungani.
Chungani, yeah. The graveyard was cut and we got it a plot on the other side of the road, which we were not allowed to use for graveyard. So we used it for housing. Still existing up to today.
How many flats were there?
About 150 flats.
Okay.
At that time. And we gave all of them to our community who were shelterless.
Right. And I believe at that time, there was a considerable movement from Zanzibari community were sort of exodusing from 1964 revolution and after effect, and they were sort of moving to Dar es Salaam, and there was a dire need for housing at the time. Is that correct? My understanding.
Well, there was a dire need for housing at that time because, as you know, housing is important and it is not matching, and it does not match the population. So you always need housing. And we felt that as a Jamaat, that we got this plot, so why don't we develop it as a housing scheme? So I spearheaded that, and we formed 3 companies for 3 flats, and I appear as the first subscriber of those companies in the memorandum and articles of association.
Okay, right, interesting. So was there any other sort of community position that you took beyond what you've just described?
Yes, also during my time as secretary, I was able to buy a plot next to the then existing Imam Bara, which is now the present Imam Bara is used.
All right, okay.
Is
that the place, is that the area where the young people used to exercise and meet and all that?
Yes, that's right.
The one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then also I represented Dar es Salaam Jamaat as a counselor on Africa Federation. So I was active all the time.
Right.
As a counselor of Africa Federation. I even drafted a revised constitution of Africa Federation. And for the first time, I introduced the concept of a paid secretary in the organization. So that was my idea when I drafted the constitution, and it was adopted. And we had a paid secretary from then onwards.
If we can just have a bit of conversation about this paid secretary. Before that, I think the institutions were basically voluntary institutions. And what was the rationale behind introducing a paid personnel from sort of voluntary concept? So what was your rationale behind it? Why did you think that it was necessary? And do we need it to sort of move on to accountability, responsibility by way of paying someone to take on a position? And then was that the rationale behind it, or what was your rationale behind it?
See, the rationale was two. One, the honorary worker cannot devote so much time to the job, and therefore many of the job we find gets left undone in between, halfway. The other thing, as you say, is this, that we could not hold them accountable if there was something wrong, because they were doing it honorarily. But if there was a paid person, we could ask him why this has happened, why that did not happen. So the rationale behind it was actually to get somebody who can do the job and who can be asked questions of why the job was not done or the job was done in a different way. Just like when we employ somebody, we expect that we can hold him accountable for the work that we entrust to him.
So Anverbhai, I have a question now in relation to that evolution of paid employee within the community setup or community institution. Do you think that we have got the balance right at the moment, or do we need to increase the paid level of employee within the community institution, or do we need more voluntary sector? Do you think we've got the balance right? How do you see that?
I think each institution has got a different balance that is required. So each institution has to decide itself how they want to balance between paid and honorary workers. We cannot let us say that in institution A, there should be 5 people paid and 5 honorary, whereas in institution B, it could be 1 and 1, So each institution has to decide the level of its manpower themselves and balance it properly. That is my view.
Yeah, but what is the state at the moment from your experience? Do we think we have got about right? Say, for example, in Africa Federation or in World Federation, or do you feel that that balance is just about right?
I think so, because the work is being done quite satisfactorily. So I think that there is a good balance.
All right. So now we move on to why did you leave for Pakistan then? I mean, as I understand, in 1971 you went to Pakistan. What
Yes,
made you move to East?
See, before that, as I said, I was practicing as a chartered accountant in Dar es Salaam. And because of the economic policies of the government at that time, socialism, I decided that maybe I will have a limited scope in a socialist environment, so I better look for some other opportunity. And I did not want to go to UK, although that would have been a natural direction for me because I studied there. And some of my brothers had settled there, but I did not want to polish my own shoes, so to say, or wash my own utensils. So I decided that I go to a place where I can get a comfortable living with good domestic help and things like that. I chose Pakistan because it was a Muslim country. And I thought that I will be able to fit in well in a Muslim country than in a secular state like India. So I chose Pakistan and I went to Pakistan.
So talk to us about Pakistan. I mean, obviously it's not a environment that you were used to from the history. You were in UK and did you have any relation there that helped you or assisted you, or did you have friends there? What was the community like? Talk to us about your early days and how did you see yourself then fitting in within Pakistan, and how did you feel that you could develop yourself or community life for yourself in Karachi? Talk to us about that.
Well, I did not have any relatives as such on whom I could fall on for advice or help, but I had few people like Jumhaji family were there.
They're originally from Dar es Salaam, though.
Yeah, so Jumhaji family were there, and I knew them from here. So we got quite a lot of help from them. Also, the Ali Bhai Ramji family from Uganda were there. Also, Sharif Devji family were there. So I got quite a good help from them. But the development of my business, I think that it's only God who helped me because I did not know anybody. I started something completely new without having any base to start. So I started, first I went into a flush door manufacturing thing with Bashir Chatu and Raza Panjo, Maroon. but it did not work well because immediately the war started, India and Pakistan, and so economically it was not good. So we disposed of that, and then we started a shipping agency, again, three of us, in Karachi, because again, three of us, we had bought a small ship. So that was the catalyst of our shipping agency business. Afterwards, Shir and Marhum Raza retired and they sold their shares to me. So I became the sole owner of the shipping agency. And from nothing, shipping agency, I was able to develop a relationship with foreign owners, and I got their agency there. But that again also is, I think, the blessings of Allah. All of a sudden, I got the agency of the companies that I did not know. They approached me through a friend that would you like to be our agent and things like that. So from there onwards, I developed the shipping agency, and Alhamdulillah, we did well in the shipping agency. Also, then we went into a cargo handling business in the new port, Port Qasim, and there we did very well. And that was from where I built my wealth.
And on the other side, what about the social communal life, religious life? When you went there, what was, we had there Khoja Shia Ishnashi, what we call Pirai Jamaat. So, so how did you sort of then fit in with the community there? What happened?
Well, we knew, of course, few people. And also we used to gather every Sunday at the residence of Marhum, one of the Sharif Devji family's house. Every Sunday we used to meet there and discuss our problems and opportunities and things like that. And then we developed a sort of a loose associationship, whereby we thought that we should have our own center for prayers, religious activities, etc. And so we started Mehfil Murtaza on a rented premises. And from Mehfil Murtaza rented premises, then Jamal Mamdali Ali Bairamji family gave us a free plot, and then we developed from there our own Mehfil, our own property, which is existing up to today, Alhamdulillah.
That's the Mehfil Murtaza Center.
Mehfil Murtaza, it is known as Mehfil Murtaza, and it's an Imam Barda and Masjid. That was the start of the community service in Pakistan. Then, of course, we developed Murtaza School. Also, as you say, Zainabia Trust, which I think is the largest housing scheme of the community in the world. And then we started the JIBA, Jaffrey International Business Association, JIBA, and things developed because we were lucky to have a good sort of a team and good friends like Hussein Ali Bhai, Maroon Sheni, Haji, Altaf Kikaria, Ghulam Abbas Badami, and people like that. We had a good understanding with each other. So we developed all this properly, and we could work and we could build the institution because of that teamwork.
So you had sort of like-minded people coming together at the right time, and you began this communal work of satisfying the needs of the community in terms of education, in terms of housing, and in terms of economic upliftment through JIBA. So it was very important that the like-minded people were there with you to drive these projects forward. Is that how you see it?
Yes, yes. It's the teamwork and like-minded people and the love for the community in each of us, which was the driving force behind all these establishments. And Alhamdulillah, also the most important was the philanthropy of the local people also there. They gave us donations to build schools, Murtaza, Zainabia Trust. The bulk of the money that we established this institution was raised in Pakistan. Of course, we raised money from outside also, but the bulk of the thing was raised locally.
How was your relationship between Mehfil and Murtaza and the larger Jamaat, which had been in existence for long period of time? I mean, you had developed a good relationship with the community there as you sort of started to build a newer center and a community within Karachi. What was the relationship like?
Well, the relationship was quite good because we did not establish a Jamaat. We just established a center, religious center or school, and we did not compete with the Jamaat. In fact, we took part in the management of the, I was even the secretary for some time of the Pirai Jamaat. So there was no sort of enmity between our establishment and of the Pirai Jamaat because we took part and we were also in the management of the Pirai Jamaat also.
Now, this is it's whether you will be able to have that recollection or not, but at the World Federation level, we had the membership of Mehfil and Murtaza, but then very later on, Pirai Jamaat became the member of the World Federation. How come that it took such a long time for Pirai Jamaat to become the member? Can you reflect, just from historical point of view, what could have been the reason why they applied for membership at a later stage? Was it the awareness issue or was it something else?
I think that they were not, as you said, awareness. It was an awareness because they did not understand the concept of the World Federation.
Okay.
They thought that if they become a member of World Federation, they will be in every respect under the World Federation, and they will have to do what the World Federation tells them, which was not the fact. So that was the main thing. And then it took many years of convincing to the Pirai Jamaat that no, this is not the issue, this is the thing, and that is the thing. And slowly they realized that it is in their interest to become a member. So they decided and they became a member.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. So then you then came to Dar es Salaam after staying in Pakistan. What was the rationale behind moving away from, you built so much there and you were settled there and then decided to come back to Tanzania where you are at the moment, I take it?
Yeah. Well, what happened was Tanzania opened up from socialism to free market and capitalist system. So that gave an opportunity for people to do business and to strive and thrive. The other thing was that my son had already finished his education and had joined me in the business. So I thought that let me give him a free hand and let him do the management and ownership of the company himself. And I go to Tanzania and re-establish my contacts and start a shipping agency there. So that was the reason why I moved to Tanzania.
So you felt that that would give you more business opportunity now that it was free of socialism, Tanzania?
Yes, I felt, and I've been proved right, that I would be able to do something in Dar es Salaam also. So I established a shipping agency in Dar es Salaam, which I'm still running at the moment. And Muhammad, my son, continues to run the Pakistan arm of the business. And Alhamdulillah, by the grace of God, both of them are doing well. And I thank God for that.
I think, Anverbhai, your heart is still with Tanzania. You still feel a love of Tanzania. That's what I think. That's why you're back.
But no, I think I miss Pakistan, frankly.
Yeah, okay.
Do miss because I was able to do quite a lot there. And my prime age was spent in Pakistan. So I do miss Pakistan and I love Pakistan. I think it's a good country. And one can be happy there, live a good life, and have all the facilities there, which we have by the grace of God. So I do miss Pakistan actually quite a lot.
So in Tanzania, from the bio, you then became chairman of Chamber of Commerce and business institutions and foundations. What was the reason why you sort of coming back to Tanzania and then sort of moving into those sort of institutions? Is it that provided you with a valuable experience, or it allowed you to put your experience back into Tanzania? What was the motive there? And did you learn a lot from there? Did you set up any enterprise in Tanzania following that? Go on.
You see, I thought if I get myself involved in this institution, I will be able to build an influence to my benefit also, to the benefit of the community also. So a friend of mine actually drafted me into Dar es Salaam Merchants Chamber. He forced me to be the chairman of Dar es Salaam Merchants Chamber, and that is, he died unfortunately, Manu Bhai Devani. He was a quite important person, known person. He was even the mayor of Dar es Salaam at one time. And he drafted me into the Rotary Club, also into the Dar es Salaam Merchants Chamber. And from there, from Dar es Salaam Merchants Chamber, I developed my association with Tanzania Private Sector Foundation and Tanzania National Business Council. As you know, Tanzania National Business Council was under the chairmanship of the president of the country. So for 6 years, I was on the executive committee, and I could have interact with the government and have the benefit of their knowledge or their policies, etc.
So would you say that in our community, such efforts should be more widespread, of joining national institutions, so that we can, first of all, we can be known and we can also contribute through those institutions? Do you think that is lacking, or there's an interest or not interest? People like yourselves who actively sought this position, do you think that we have those sort of interest in our community in Dar es Salaam and generally in East Africa to join national institutions and reap benefits?
Unfortunately, I have to say that we don't seem to have an interest in joining such institutions, which is a sad thing.
Okay. So according to you, I think there is a lesson for others who are listening that, becoming a members of such institutions, national institutions, in the long term benefits not only himself, but also the community and the country at large.
Yes, definitely, yes.
So now, how did you become the president or the chairman of the Pakistan Federation, being in Tanzania?
That is also very interesting.
Right. Well, share with us then.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I got a call one day from Altaf Kekaria that he was the chairman at that time of Pakistan Federation. So he told me that you are the next chairman of Pakistan Federation. I said, but I'm in Tanzania, I cannot be. He said, no, you are the chairman. And we know that you can execute the work even whilst being in Dar es Salaam. So I was forced into it again by circumstances because there was nobody else who was ready to take the chair. So I said, okay, I will try. And that is how I came to become, I was elected as the chairman.
Okay, I have now a few questions on the community. How do you see the state of the community, our community, Khoja Shia Ishnashi community today? I will come to the Jamaat Federation, World Federation in a minute, but how do you see the state of the community today? I mean, your honest reflection, constructive, so that from your experience, you are seeing how the state of the community is. Would you like to share?
I think generally we are doing well. The Jamaats at all levels are now getting more organized, professionally managed, even where necessarily they have full-time office and full-time staff also. I think generally we are doing well.
Yes. Now coming to
Jamaat level.
say it again. At what level?
At Jamaat level.
At Jamaat level. So I just want to now reflect with you the way we have hierarchy, like we have Jamaat and then we have regional federation, then we have world federation. Now, obviously, the construct of this hierarchy was based on the geography. So, for example, if you were in Africa, you will belong to Africa Federation. If you were in Pakistan, you will belong to Pakistan Federation. If you are in Europe, you'll belong to European Federation. So it's basically a geographical construct that I think I'm just sharing with you. Maybe that construct, that way of working benefited us immensely. But in a globalized world today, when Lindi can communicate with London so well, and I am communicating with you directly without any institutional involvement at all, because of mere fact that technology is available, we are more globalized now. We don't need to have geographical construct of this nature, although we would require a federation. But do you think that the geographical way of looking to develop our hierarchy is now past, and we may have to develop a much more global way of functioning within the Jamaats, and maybe we may not require a regional sort of layer. do you think a time may come that may be the case? We just
I think
constructively
so.
now and looking and critically looking at the way the future can be.
I think so. Frankly speaking, I was not happy with the concept of regional federations becoming members of the World Federation. I believe that the old concept of where the grassroots Jamaats were the members of the World Federation was serving the community better. So as the time develops, globalization and things like that will force us to think again whether the present hierarchy is what serves us better, or whether we should go into some other way of working. So,
Or maybe a compromised way of moving forward, that we can have a regional voice, but within the direct membership of the Jamaats within a world forum. Some sort of a different hierarchy maybe, which can be suitable to us functioning in a global world. So these are the perhaps.
I think so, and also the, what shall I say, the present way in which the World Federation has been elected, I think will give us a lesson, and maybe we might change the hierarchy from federations back again to grassroots or something like that.
So these are the.
I think something will happen.
These are the options for leadership to think through, to see what is the best way of moving forward in a global situation that we are in at the moment. So it's just a reflection as to, we learn from our obviously past experiences and see how we can move forward in a sort of constructive way. I have another question, Anwar Bhai. What advice would you give, having worked in the community continuously for 60 years now, what advice you would give to the community leadership at the Jamaat level, then at the regional level, because we still have a very strong regional level within our hierarchy, and of course at the World Federation level as well. This is purely from your own experiences, having worked in the community for 60 years. What sort of advice would you be wanting to give to the Jamaat leadership first, let's say?
I think at all levels, Jamaat, regional and World Federation level, I would like to say that we should get rid of our ego and work for the community without thinking of our ego. That is the only way where we can move forward, because we have sincere people, we have good donors, we have sincere honorary workers, and sincere paid workers also we have. So we should, each of us should get rid of his ego and look what is the best interest of the community and work accordingly.
I think that's a very good advice, Anwar Bhai, for not only leaders, but I think everyone within the community, that, work without ego and for the benefit of the community. And I think with that, Anwar Bhai, we will come to close our conversation. Do you have any last words that you want to say before we end the conversation, Anwar Bhai?
No, nothing. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to share my experience, my ideas, and my thoughts. for the benefit of the community. So my advice is that let us all work together for the benefit of the community, especially we need to do a lot in the field of education and in the field of housing. These are the two things I think we should now concentrate on and advance our resources for these two things, education. And because if we have an educated community, then all our problems will be solved. We don't have to give money or donation or welfare and things like that. And if we have people properly housed, they will be able to concentrate on their life and on their health easily and better. So I would advise to my community that please let us concentrate on these two things.
I think with those words of wisdom, we will close our conversation. Anverbhai, thank you very much for giving us an opportunity for you to share with us your experiences both in business life and community life. And if I can sum it up, that you were able to balance both your entrepreneur interest and your philanthropy and communal interest in quite a nice way, so that you could contribute in both the sides of your life. Thank you very much indeed, Anverbhai. So, inshallah, when I come to Dar es Salaam, we'll meet again.
Inshallah. One more thing, although I have retired from community life, but at the insistence of my sister, I have, with the cooperation of the Dar es Salaam Jamaat, established a eye clinic, free eye clinic, charitable eye clinic, under the ownership or aegis of Dar es Salaam Jamaat. So I will continue to do that part of the work.
Well,
it is Khoja Shia Ishna Shri Charitable Eye Center, and the ownership is of Dar es Salaam Jamaat.
yeah, it's very, very nice to know that this project is now moving forward under the aegis of Dar es Salaam Jamaat, and it will benefit a lot of people as far as their eye health is concerned. Anyway, thank you for sharing all this with us, Anverbhai,
Yes,
and inshallah, may
we
Allah
have just
subhanahu
been
wa ta'ala give
approved.
you long life and good health. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Khuda Hafiz.
Okay, thank you. Khuda Hafiz.